party, right? And that therefore overrules my personal right to do what I want to do. But secondly, we tell you that it will eradicate the culture of politicking inside Malaysia and the internal political system, which is quite messy if you see it already, right? Let's move on to the rebuttals first, right? First things first, let's just tell them what party hopping is, because I don't think they know. Party hopping is when I hop into another party. It's simple that way, right? When I decide that I don't like my party anymore, right? And the problem happens when after I've got into a seat or after I've already gained power or a lot of votes under one banner of a party, I suddenly switch to the direct opposite of the party, for example, BN to PKR or PKR to BN, right? And we see a lot of problems in that situation. Basically, why you want to do it, right? Sit down, right? But if you say that they want a problem and that it is a problem, but rather have by-elections. But here's the problem with by-elections, right? It's extremely time-consuming for you to have campaigns every single time. And essentially, what you have in that is the little parties that don't have enough funds, because essentially campaigns aren't something that are cheap, right? The people who have more money to spend on more airtime and more media coverage, these are the kind of parties that will monopolize these by-elections, right? Essentially, that's not exactly democracy as we see it, right? So we don't exactly understand what their stance actually is. It's rather confusing, right? Let's look at the next point, and they'll bring this, and they try to talk about a bit the rights of politicians for them to choose their own parties. But essentially we think that we want to protect the interests of the majority, right? The problem is here that I've already essentially lied to my people about my stance of what I stand on. And just because of my self-gain and my self-interest, I go on a banner of one party, I get into the place and I change just because I want to, right? The thing is, that's really detrimental. We think that the importance and the benefits and the harms towards the society, and especially the area who's already voted this person in, outweighs the rights of the politicians, right? And there's a lot of things that politicians give up when they become politicians in the first place, right? We think that the right to party hop is essentially should be one of the rights that they should give up. Before I move on to my subsectives, yes, sir.
Okay, now I think you have a personal vendetta with politicians, because you seem to think that politicians cannot change their political stance. Now, ladies and gentlemen, supposing I want a tax hike and then I don't want a tax hike, why can't I have the power of reasoning? Thank you.
Okay, that's the thing. We're okay if you want to change your political stance before the elections, and just we draw the line between what's the difference of me party hopping before and after I go into my election campaign. Because essentially we think that election campaign period is essentially what matters most. Because I go under one banner propagating one ideology, and essentially that's the party and the banner that I go under, right? If before that, it's for me to like have my own discourse and decide that, oh, I think this party is the best, that's fine. But after that, we think that, especially since I've already promised the people to give them this and this and this is what I should be giving the people, right? Not making false promises in my agenda, promising people a hell lot of things, and then the day not giving that and not giving them these things because I have to switch my whole political stance and switch everything that I've already promised them, right? It's not that we hate politicians, we just think we want to clean up the system because it's a pretty messy place to begin with, right? Let's move on to my actual substantive for today. How we don't want to support inconsistent stances, right? We think that parties in Malaysia, and you have to concede to the fact that the voting system in Malaysia works a lot around the party system, right? We think that different parties and diverse parties always fight for different things. For example, PKR has quickly become a rather welfare party with the promises of free university funds and free water for Selangor, and while BN is rather Malay, right? We think that a lot of parties always fight for different things, and essentially because they fight for different things, they get that amount of political will and political power and support that they get from the people, right? So essentially we think, number one, if you've already promised something to your people, that's essentially what you should give your people, right? But secondly, we tell you that the problem is that when I hop my party, I have to shift my stance. Especially, we see this especially problematic that when the stances are diverse, right? Meaning that if I from BDR, I've already promised you so much welfare, and I switch into, I don't know, DAP, and then I have to give up all the welfare. What happens is that suddenly the whole area number one, not only do you not get what they've been voting for and what they've trusted you to deliver, but secondly we tell you that essentially it means that this area is no longer stable in what they have, right, or what they are getting, right? Essentially transparency is just simply not there, because I don't know what's happening and I don't know exactly which party or which stance is ruling me. I don't know what's going to happen to me, right? And it's highly detrimental when they say, especially when they say that we can have by-elections. And how am I supposed to know who I'm to get my vote in the first place, right? Essentially, you have to make the people feel secure, right? Because that's what a democracy is about, right? And we don't think that that's what they're doing, right? But we've also proven to you how stability within the area, within the policies in the area, is essentially important to keep the area itself stable. But what we're going to tell you next is that the political system in Malaysia is rather internal. Politicians insulting other politicians, all the debates is never about what the policies are about, are rather insulting other parties' policies, and we don't really quite get it. We want to change the system, right? We want the politicians to not really think a lot about which party they're under, but actually start working for their people, right? And not think and bicker and it's based, like they go on TV and things like that, right? We tell you that essentially we want to improve the system and lift it to a higher level, right? Where people are more transparent and clear with the people, right? Essentially we've told you, out of time. Essentially we've told you that we've got a clear mechanism, right? It's something that has been going on for so long and the government has systematically ignored this problem, right? We want change for the country. We want to facilitate the way that people vote in the best ways possible, right? So if that means that people vote based on parties, that means people have to be consistent with the parties and the things that they promise people to do, right? Essentially, it's a legal binding, whatever you promise your people, right? So if you believe in actual democracy and actual fairness towards the people, you go with that government.